Lyra pressed herself against the cold metal wall of the corridor, her head tilted slightly as she sent out another series of soft clicks from her throat. The sound waves bounced back to her, painting a rough picture of the hallway ahead. Boxes stacked to the left, a support beam 3 meters forward, and somewhere beyond that, the merchant district where she hoped to trade her small collection of salvaged circuit boards for food. She took a careful step forward, then another. Her webbed fingers traced along the wall, feeling the rivets and seams that helped her memorize the station's layout. Station Kepler 7 was massive, a trading hub where dozens of alien species conducted business far from their home worlds. For most residents, it was a place of opportunity. For Lyra, it was a prison of isolation. The Venlari were known across the galaxy as proud warriors with incredibly advanced senses. They could detect electromagnetic fields, sense temperature changes from across a room, and their vision extended into spectrums that most species couldn't even imagine. Being born Venlari meant being born superior, or so her people believed. Being born Venlari and blind was something else entirely. It was shameful. Unacceptable. Wrong. Lyra had learned these truths early in life when her own parents left her at a charity station with nothing but a small credit chip and a note explaining that they couldn't bear the disgrace. She was 7 years old then. Now, at 19, she'd survived longer than anyone expected, scraping by through odd jobs and the occasional kindness of strangers, though those moments were rare. A burst of laughter echoed down the corridor ahead. Lyra froze, recognizing the rough, growling voices of Krellian traders. The Krellians were large, reptilian creatures who found humor in things most species considered cruel. She'd learned to avoid them when possible, but the merchant district had only 2 main entrances, and she was already committed to this route. She continued forward, her clicks coming faster now, trying to map every detail. The Krellians' voices grew louder, but they seemed engaged in their own conversation. Maybe they wouldn't notice her. Maybe she could slip past. Her shoulder bumped into something solid that definitely hadn't been there a moment ago. A cargo crate. Lyra stumbled, catching herself against another surface that her echolocation had shown as clear space just seconds before. Confusion flooded through her before she heard it, the low chuckling from multiple throats. They were moving obstacles into her path. Playing with her like she was some kind of entertainment. Lyra's face burned with humiliation, but she kept her expression neutral. Showing emotion only made it worse. She sent out another series of clicks, trying to find a clear path, but the layout kept changing. A crate slid in front of her. She turned left and nearly walked into a stack of containers that hadn't been there before. The laughter grew louder, and she heard other footsteps now, other species stopping to watch the show. Nobody intervened. Nobody ever did. She was trying to navigate around what felt like a wall of cargo when a hand touched her elbow gently. Lyra flinched, expecting rough handling or another cruel joke, but the touch was soft, guiding. "Easy there," a voice said in simple universal standard, the common trade language. The accent was human, which surprised her. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, and she'd only encountered a few. "I've got you. There's about 6 crates surrounding you right now. Let me help." The hand on her elbow guided her carefully to the left, then forward. She heard the human's breathing, steady and calm, and felt the warmth radiating from his body. Humans ran warmer than most species, she remembered reading once. "You Krellian idiots want to move this junk, or should I report you to station security for creating navigation hazards?" The human called out, his voice firmer now. "Pretty sure there are regulations against blocking main corridors." The laughter died down. Lyra heard the scraping sounds of crates being moved, though the Krellians grumbled in their own language, probably insults she was grateful she couldn't understand. "Okay, path's clear now," the human said, his voice gentle again as he spoke to her. "The merchant district is about 20 meters straight ahead. Do you need help getting there, or are you good from here?" Lyra stood very still, uncertain how to respond. Kindness was so rare that she'd almost forgotten how to accept it. Her throat felt tight as she managed to click out a response in Universal Standard, her voice raspy from disuse. "I can manage. Thank you." "You sure? I'm heading that direction anyway. I'm Tyler, by the way. Maintenance tech. I work on the environmental systems, so I'm all over this station. Probably seen every corridor at least 100 times." There was something disarming about his casual tone, like helping her was the most natural thing in the world. Not an act of charity or pity, just one person helping another. "My name is Lyra," she said quietly. "Nice to meet you, Lyra. Really, I don't mind walking with you if you want. This station can be rough, especially during peak trading hours." She hesitated, then gave a small nod. Tyler kept his hand lightly on her elbow, describing obstacles before they reached them. His voice painted pictures she could almost see in her mind, details her echolocation could never capture. He told her about the color of the merchant banners, the way the artificial lighting reflected off the polished floor panels, and how a group of small, furry aliens were juggling glowing orbs to attract customers. When they reached the merchant she usually traded with, Tyler made sure she was safely at the stall before saying goodbye. But before he left, he did something that caught her completely off guard. "Hey, I usually take my lunch break around 1300 hour station time. There's a quiet spot near the observation deck on level 12 if you ever want company. No pressure, just thought I'd mention it." Lyra stood motionless as his footsteps faded away, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. Someone had helped her without wanting anything in return. Someone had treated her like she mattered, like she was worth a few minutes of time and kindness. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Lyra felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize the feeling. Hope. Lyra didn't expect Tyler to actually be at the observation deck the next day. In her experience, people said kind things they didn't mean all the time. It was easier than being honest, easier than admitting they wanted nothing to do with a blind Venlari who bumped into walls. But when she arrived at level 12, carefully navigating using the tactile floor markers she'd memorized over the years, she heard a familiar voice call out. "Lyra. Over here, I saved you a spot." She turned toward the sound, sending out a quick series of clicks to map the space. The observation deck was less crowded than the main corridors, with only a few scattered beings enjoying the view of space. Tyler's warm presence registered to her left, near what felt like a bench against the exterior wall. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Tyler said as she approached. "But I'm really glad you did. I grabbed an extra sandwich from the cafeteria. It's supposed to be something called a Reuben. Fair warning though, human food is kind of hit or miss for other species. No pressure to eat it if it's weird." Lyra settled onto the bench beside him, accepting the wrapped sandwich with careful hands. She unwrapped it slowly, her sensitive fingers examining the texture before taking a small bite. The flavors were strange, tangy and salty at the same time, but not unpleasant. "It's different," she said quietly. "But good. Thank you." "So, I've got to ask," Tyler said between bites of his own food, "what's it like navigating with echolocation? I've read a little about it, but I bet the reality is way more complex than what the database says." Most people never asked about her abilities. They only focused on what she lacked. Lyra found herself explaining how the clicks painted pictures in her mind, how she could sense density and texture through sound, how metal sounded different from organic materials. Tyler listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was actually trying to understand her perspective. Then he did something that changed everything. He started describing what he saw through the massive viewport beside them. "Okay, so right now we're looking out at this incredible nebula," Tyler began, his voice taking on a quality that made Lyra lean in closer. "It's this massive cloud of purple and blue dust, billions of kilometers across. The purple parts are brighter, almost glowing, and they swirl into the deeper blue sections like someone stirred paint in water but froze it in time. There are stars scattered throughout, little pinpoints of white and yellow light, and some of them are so bright they create these rays that cut through the dust." Lyra sat perfectly still, her unseeing eyes turned toward the viewport. She'd never experienced anything like this. Tyler's words created images in her mind more vivid than any echolocation could provide. For those few minutes, she could almost see. The lunch meetings became a daily routine. Tyler would bring food and spend his break describing the station's sights to Lyra in elaborate detail. He told her about the different alien species passing by, painting pictures with his words that made her laugh for the first time in years. He described a Bovarian merchant whose tentacles changed colors based on his mood, turning bright orange when he was angry at a customer. He talked about the small maintenance robots that followed him around like loyal pets while he worked. But their conversations went deeper than just descriptions. Tyler shared stories about Earth, about his childhood in a place called Colorado where mountains touched the sky and snow fell from clouds. Lyra told him about Venlari Prime, the world she barely remembered, where cities were built vertically to honor the sky gods her people worshipped. She explained how her blindness was seen as a curse, a sign that the gods had rejected her before birth. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard," Tyler said bluntly one day, and Lyra was so startled she nearly dropped her drink. "Sorry, I don't mean to disrespect your culture, but seriously. You navigate this entire massive station using sound. You work salvage jobs that require incredible precision. You've survived alone since you were a kid. That's not cursed. That's incredible. Lyra felt her throat tighten with emotion. My people don't see it that way. Then your people are idiots, Tyler said simply. No offense. A laugh burst from Lyra before she could stop it, surprising them both. Tyler joined in, and for a moment, the observation deck was filled with the sound of their shared amusement. Weeks passed, and Tyler became the anchor point of Lyra's existence on the station. He helped her find better salvage jobs, introducing her to vendors who were willing to look past her disability. He taught her universal standard phrases she'd never learned, expanding her ability to communicate. And every single day, he spent his lunch break describing the universe to her in ways that made her heart ache with longing. One day, Tyler arrived at their usual spot buzzing with unusual energy. Okay, so I've been doing some research, he said, barely sitting down before launching into his explanation. Humans have been developing this neural interface technology for decades. We use it for prosthetics mostly, helping people control artificial limbs with their thoughts. But there's this experimental branch that deals with sensory sharing. Lyra tilted her head, confused. Sensory sharing? Yeah, like connecting two nervous systems so they can share input. Sight, sound, touch, all of it. The technology exists to create a bridge between compatible species. I looked up Venlari neural structures, and they're actually really similar to human ones. More similar than most species, actually. Tyler's voice grew more excited. Lyra, I think there might be a way for you to see. Not with your own eyes, but through someone else's. Through mine. Lyra went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying I could undergo a procedure to become a visual donor. They'd implant a device that would transmit what I see directly to your brain. You'd experience sight through my eyes. It's experimental and probably expensive, but I've been looking into grants and medical research programs that might cover it. The offer was so enormous, so impossibly generous, that Lyra couldn't process it at first. She shook her head firmly. No. Absolutely not. Why not? Lyra, imagine actually seeing the nebula instead of just hearing me describe it. Imagine. I can't let you do that, Lyra interrupted, her voice sharper than she intended. Tyler, you barely know me. We've shared lunch for a few weeks. That doesn't mean you should undergo surgery and connect yourself to me forever. What if the procedure goes wrong? What if you regret it? What if it works? Tyler countered gently. What if I don't regret it? What if giving you sight is something I actually want to do? Why? Lyra demanded, frustrated and confused by his insistence. Why would you do this for me? Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, more serious than she'd ever heard it. Because everyone deserves to see the stars, Lyra. And because you're my friend. That's reason enough. Lyra turned away, her hands clenching in her lap. The offer terrified her precisely because she wanted it so desperately. She wanted to see Tyler's face, to know what colors actually looked like, to experience the universe the way everyone else did. But the cost to him felt too high. I need to think about it, she whispered. Take all the time you need, Tyler said, and his hand found hers, squeezing gently. I'm not going anywhere. 3 days after Tyler's offer, Lyra still hadn't given him an answer. The decision felt too massive, too life-changing for both of them. She'd taken to avoiding their usual meeting spot, instead spending her time in the lower maintenance levels of the station where few people ventured. It was quieter there, and she could think without the constant noise of the upper decks. She'd found a small alcove between two large coolant processors where she could sit undisturbed. The machinery hummed at a frequency that was almost soothing to her sensitive hearing, and nobody bothered her in this forgotten corner of Kepler 7. It had become her refuge over the past few days. Lyra was sitting there, running through the impossible decision for the 1000th time, when she heard it. A hissing sound, high-pitched and wrong. She stood quickly, sending out a rapid series of clicks to map her surroundings. The sound was coming from somewhere above and to her left. One of the coolant lines. Then she smelled it. A sharp, acrid scent that made her eyes water and her throat burn. Coolant leak. A bad one. Lyra's heart began to race. She knew enough about station systems to understand how dangerous this was. The coolant used in Kepler 7's processes was toxic to most species, and in an enclosed space like the lower levels, it would spread fast. She needed to get out immediately. She turned toward where she remembered the exit corridor being and started moving quickly, too quickly. Her echolocation was having trouble cutting through the increasing noise of alarms that had just started blaring throughout the level. The sound waves bounced chaotically, giving her conflicting information about her surroundings. Lyra's hand hit a pipe she hadn't detected. She reversed direction, clicking frantically, but the alarm noise was drowning out her returns. Panic began to set in as she realized she was disoriented. The lower levels were a maze of machinery and corridors, and without clear echolocation, she was effectively lost. Her lungs were starting to hurt. The toxic fumes were spreading faster than she'd anticipated. Lyra pressed her sleeve against her mouth and nose, trying to filter the air, but she could feel her movements becoming sluggish. The chemicals were affecting her nervous system. She collapsed against a wall, sliding down to sit on the cold floor. This was it. This was how she died. Alone in the darkness that had been her constant companion since birth, in a forgotten corner of a station where nobody would miss her. Nobody except maybe Tyler. Tyler. The human who'd shown her more kindness in a few weeks than she'd experienced in years. The human who'd offered to give her sight, who'd treated her like she mattered. She wished she'd said yes. She wished she'd taken the chance, even if it seemed too good to be true. At least then she would have seen his face once before the end. Far above, in the station's emergency command center, Tyler was arguing with the rescue coordinator. He'd been in a maintenance shaft on level 8 when the alarms went off, and he'd immediately accessed the emergency system to see what was happening. When he saw the location of the coolant leak, his blood ran cold. Lower level 6. Lyra's hiding spot. We can't send teams in yet, the coordinator, a four-armed Quillian named Vex, was saying. The fume concentration is too high. We're venting the area now, but it'll take at least 20 minutes before it's safe. She doesn't have 20 minutes, Tyler shouted, pulling up a schematic of the lower levels on his datapad. The toxic exposure at those concentrations will cause neural damage in most species within 10 minutes. For Vinlari, maybe less. I understand your concern, but I can't risk rescue personnel, Vex said firmly. We wait for the venting to complete. Tyler stared at the schematic, his mind racing. He knew those lower levels intimately. He'd done maintenance work down there dozens of times. But in toxic fumes with limited visibility, even he would struggle to navigate the maze of machinery and corridors fast enough. Unless. An idea struck him, crazy and desperate but possibly their only chance. What if I don't go in blind? Tyler said. What if I had someone who knows that area, who could guide me using a different sense? Vex's multiple eyes blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? Tyler was already running toward the medical bay, his datapad clutched in his hand. He burst through the doors to find Dr. Rachel Patel reviewing patient charts. She looked up in surprise at his dramatic entrance. Dr. Patel, I need your help, Tyler said breathlessly. That neural interface technology, the experimental sensory sharing stuff. How fast can you set up a temporary link? Dr. Patel's eyes widened. Tyler, those systems take weeks to properly calibrate. The surgery alone requires. Not full surgery. Emergency connection. Temporary. Tyler pulled up the coolant leak information on his datapad and showed her. There's someone trapped down there. She's Vinlari, she's blind, but she knows those lower levels better than anyone through echolocation. If you can link us, even temporarily, I can use her sensory input to navigate while she uses my vision to help guide me. We'd cover each other's weaknesses. Dr. Patel looked at the data, her expression growing grave. This is incredibly dangerous. A temporary neural link without proper preparation could cause permanent damage to both of you. Seizures, neural scarring, sensory loss. She's going to die if we don't try, Tyler interrupted. Please. I know the risks. I accept them. The doctor stared at him for a long moment, then made a decision. Get on the examination table. I'll need to place contact nodes on your temples and the base of your skull. This is going to hurt, and the connection will be unstable at best. Tyler was already climbing onto the table. Dr. Patel moved with practiced efficiency, pulling out a case of experimental equipment that Tyler recognized from his research. She attached several adhesive nodes to his head, each one sending a sharp tingle through his skull. I'm patching into the station's communication system, Dr. Patel explained as she worked. We'll establish a link with any compatible neural signature in the affected area. If your friend is down there and still conscious, the system should find her automatically. But Tyler, listen to me carefully. This connection is going to be crude and painful. You'll be experiencing two sets of sensory input simultaneously, and your brain isn't trained to handle that. You might experience nausea, disorientation, hallucinations. Just do it, Tyler said. Dr. Patel's fingers flew across her control panel. Initiating neural scan. Searching for compatible signatures in lower level 6. Tyler felt a strange pressure building behind his eyes, like someone was pushing on the inside of his skull. Then suddenly, the pressure released in a cascade of sensation that made him gasp. Sound exploded into his awareness. Not normal sound, but something richer and more complex. He could hear the shape of the room around him, sense the density of objects through acoustic signatures. And beneath it all, he felt her. Lyra. Her consciousness was a faint, fading presence, weakened by toxic exposure but still fighting. Connection established, Dr. Patel said. Tyler, can you hear me? Yes, he managed, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears. He was hearing it both normally and through echolocation simultaneously, creating a weird doubled effect. I'm sending your visual feed to her now. Hold on. Suddenly, Tyler felt Lyra's awareness surge. For the first time in her life, she was seeing. Through his eyes, she saw the medical bay, saw Dr. Patel's concerned face, saw light and color and depth. The shock of it nearly broke the connection. Lyra, Tyler said aloud, knowing she would hear him through the link. I'm coming for you. But I need you to stay conscious and help me navigate. Can you do that? He felt her response more than heard it, a pulse of determination through their connection. Tyler stood up, fighting through the disorientation of experiencing two nervous systems at once. Let's go get our girl. Tyler moved through the station corridors at a near run, his consciousness split between his own vision and Lyra's echolocation sense. It was the strangest sensation he'd ever experienced, seeing the world in front of him while simultaneously perceiving it through sound waves that painted shapes in his mind. The doubled input made his head pound, but he pushed through it. Through their connection, he could feel Lyra's fear and pain, but also her fierce determination to survive. She was sending him acoustic pictures of her surroundings, showing him the maze of pipes and machinery that trapped her. Tyler used his own knowledge of the station's layout combined with her sensory input to chart the fastest path. The entrance to lower level 6 was sealed by emergency barriers, but Tyler had maintenance override codes. His fingers fumbled on the keypad as his vision swam with doubled images. Finally, the barrier slid open, revealing a corridor filled with toxic yellow-green mist. Tyler, your oxygen mask, Dr. Patel's voice crackled through his comm device. She was monitoring everything from the medical bay. Put it on now. He sealed the mask over his face and stepped into the toxic cloud. Immediately, his normal vision became almost useless. The dense fumes reduced visibility to barely a meter. But through Lyra's echolocation, he could sense the corridor stretching ahead, could perceive the walls and obstacles that his eyes couldn't see. I'm inside, Tyler said, his voice muffled by the mask. Lyra, keep sending me signals. Show me where you are. He felt her response, a concentrated burst of clicks that revealed her location. She was deeper in the level than he'd hoped, past at least 3 major machinery sections. Tyler started moving, using her acoustic sense to navigate while she used his limited vision to help identify specific equipment markers. They moved as one entity, their minds working in unexpected harmony. When Tyler's vision caught a color-coded pipe that indicated a turn, Lyra processed the information and sent back confirmation through echolocation. When her sound sense detected a low-hanging obstruction that his eyes missed in the fog, she warned him just in time to duck. But the connection was taking its toll. Tyler felt blood trickling from his nose, and through their link, he sensed Lyra's consciousness flickering like a candle in the wind. The toxic exposure was shutting down her system, and the strain of the neural link was pushing both their brains beyond safe limits. Almost there, Tyler gasped, forcing his legs to keep moving. His muscles felt like lead, and his vision was starting to blur even beyond the fog. Stay with me, Lyra. Just a little further. He rounded a corner and saw her through a gap in the mist. She was slumped against a coolant processor, her skin pale with a grayish tint that indicated severe poisoning. Tyler rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her. He pulled her into his arms, feeling how light she was, how fragile. Got you, he whispered. I've got you. Through their connection, Lyra's consciousness stirred. He felt her wonder and confusion as she saw her own face for the first time through his eyes. Even poisoned and gray, even with her unseeing eyes closed, Tyler thought she was beautiful. He lifted her and began the agonizing journey back, every step a battle against his failing body and the toxic air. The neural link was fracturing, sending shards of pain through both their minds, but Tyler held on. He wouldn't let go. Not of the connection, not of Lyra, not of the hope that they'd both make it out. When he finally stumbled through the emergency barrier, a medical team was waiting. They pulled Lyra from his arms and rushed her onto a gurney. Tyler tried to follow, but his legs gave out. Dr. Patel caught him before he hit the floor. "Easy, easy," she said. "You did it, Tyler. You got her out." Tyler woke in a medical bay bed with lights too bright stabbing into his eyes. Except they weren't his eyes, not entirely. He could still feel the echo of the neural connection, like a phantom limb. Dr. Patel appeared at his bedside, her expression grave. "How's Lyra?" Tyler croaked. "Stable. We got the toxins out of her system in time. She's going to survive." Dr. Patel paused. "But we need to talk about you." Something in her tone made Tyler's stomach drop. "What's wrong?" "The temporary neural link caused more damage than I anticipated. Your optic nerves sustained significant trauma from the forced sensory integration. Tyler, you're going to lose your vision. Slowly, over the next few weeks, your eyesight will deteriorate until it's completely gone." The words hit Tyler like a physical blow. He stared at the doctor, trying to process what she was saying. Blind. He was going to be blind. "There is one option," Dr. Patel continued carefully. "We can sever the connection completely right now. There's a chance, maybe 30%, that it would stop the degeneration and save your sight." "And if we do that, what happens to Lyra?" Tyler asked, though he already knew the answer. The partial connection created new neural pathways in her brain, pathways adapted to process visual information. If we sever it now, those pathways will die. She'll never have another chance at sight. The damage would be permanent. Tyler closed his eyes, which still worked for now, and thought about Lyra seeing for the first time. Her wonder and joy had flooded through their connection in those brief moments. He thought about her smile, which he'd finally gotten to see when he found her in the toxic fog. "What's the other option?" he asked quietly. Dr. Patel sat down in the chair beside his bed. "We complete the neural bridge. Make it permanent instead of temporary. The technology exists, we just never had a reason to use it before. With a full, properly calibrated connection, you would keep your sight, and Lyra would experience everything you see in real time. You'd share visual processing. What's the catch? You'd be bonded for life. Your brains would be in constant communication, sharing visual input 24 hours a day. You'd need to stay within a certain range of each other, about a kilometer at most. If you separated beyond that distance, both of you would experience severe neural pain. It would change everything about how you both live." Tyler didn't hesitate. "Do it. Tyler, think about this carefully. You'd be giving up your independence, your freedom to go anywhere without considering someone else. This is permanent. There's no undoing it once it's complete." "I said do it," Tyler repeated firmly. "Lyra deserves to see the world. She deserves to know what colors look like, to see the stars, to experience everything she's been denied her whole life. If sharing my vision can give her that, then I want to do it." "She might not want this," Dr. Patel warned. "She needs to consent to the procedure too." "Then let's ask her," Tyler said. "But I already know my answer. It's yes." 2 hours later, Lyra woke in the bed next to Tyler's. Her first sensation was confusion, then a rush of memory about the toxic leak and the impossible experience of sight. She sat up quickly, looking around the medical bay with her unseeing eyes, sending out clicks to orient herself. "You're okay," Tyler's voice came from nearby. "We both made it out." Lyra turned toward him, sending a focused burst of echolocation that painted his shape in her mind. "Tyler, what you did was insane. You could have died. But I didn't. We didn't." He paused. "Lyra, there's something we need to talk about." Dr. Patel explained everything. The damage to Tyler's optic nerves, the choice between severing the connection or making it permanent, the implications of a lifelong neural bond. Lyra listened in growing horror. "No," she said when the doctor finished. "Absolutely not. Tyler, you can't sacrifice your vision for me. Sever the connection. Save your sight." "Not happening," Tyler said simply. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." Lyra's voice rose with emotion. "This is why I said no to your original offer. I knew something like this would happen. I knew you'd try to sacrifice yourself." "It's not a sacrifice if I'm choosing it freely," Tyler countered. "Lyra, for the first time in your life, you experienced sight. I felt your joy through our connection. I'm not taking that away from you, not when there's another option." "An option that chains you to me forever," Lyra said bitterly. "An option that takes away your freedom and saddles you with someone who'll only hold you back." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was gentle but firm. Is that really what you think? That you'd be holding me back? I'm blind, Tyler. I can't even navigate a station corridor without bumping into walls. You navigated me through toxic fog using only sound, Tyler reminded her. You've survived alone on this station since you were a child. You work salvage jobs that require incredible precision. Lyra, you're one of the strongest people I've ever met. The only person holding you back is you. Lyra felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Why? Why would you do this for me? Because you're my friend. Because everyone deserves to see the stars. Because when I found you in that fog and saw your face for the first time through my own eyes, I knew I'd made the right choice coming for you. Tyler's voice softened. And maybe because over these past weeks, you've become more than just a friend. Maybe because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore. The words hung in the air between them. Lyra sat frozen, her mind reeling. Nobody had ever wanted her in their life before. Nobody had ever chosen her. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too, Tyler admitted. But I'd rather be scared together than safe and alone. What do you say, Lyra? Want to see the universe with me? Through her tears, Lyra managed a shaky laugh. You're absolutely insane. Is that a yes? She reached out her hand, and Tyler took it, their fingers intertwining. It's a yes. Dr. Patel smiled. Then let's get started. You two have a lot of universe to see together. The surgery took 6 hours. Dr. Patel and her team worked carefully to establish permanent neural pathways between Tyler and Lyra's brains, installing sophisticated interface nodes that would allow constant, stable communication. Unlike the crude emergency connection that had nearly killed them both, this system was designed to integrate seamlessly with their nervous systems. When Lyra woke from the anesthesia, the first thing she experienced was light. Not the vague awareness of brightness she'd sometimes perceived, but actual, genuine light streaming through the medical bay windows. Colors bloomed in her consciousness, reds and blues and yellows that she'd never had names for before. She gasped, her hands flying to her face. Easy, Tyler's voice came from beside her, and she turned her head. For the first time in her life, Lyra saw another person's face with perfect clarity. Tyler was looking at her with concern, and she could see every detail. His brown eyes, the tired smile on his lips, the small scar on his chin. He was real and solid and beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. I can see you, she whispered. Tyler, I can actually see you. His smile widened. What do you think? You're exactly how I imagined, but also completely different. Lyra reached out tentatively, touching his face with trembling fingers. Your eyes are brown. I didn't know what brown meant before, but now I do. It's warm, like the sound of low frequencies, but visual. Through their connection, Tyler felt her overwhelming joy and wonder. It flooded through him like sunlight, and he found himself grinning even though his head still throbbed from the procedure. Want to see something really amazing? He asked. Tyler stood carefully and offered her his hand. Lyra took it, marveling at how she could now see their fingers intertwined instead of just feeling the touch. He led her slowly to the medical bay window. Outside, the nebula that he'd described so many times during their lunch break spread across the darkness of space. Lyra stopped breathing. The purple and blue clouds swirled in patterns more complex and beautiful than any description could capture. Stars glittered throughout like diamonds scattered on fabric. It's so much more than words, she said, her voice breaking. Tyler, it's so much more. They stood together in silence, both seeing the nebula through Tyler's eyes but experiencing it together. Through their bond, Tyler felt Lyra's perspective blend with his own, her wonder adding new depth to a sight he'd taken for granted for years. News of what Tyler had done spread through Station Kepler 7 like wildfire. A human maintenance worker had risked his life and given up his independence to grant sight to a blind alien that most of the station had ignored or mocked. The story resonated with people in ways nobody expected. The human community was the first to rally. Within days, Tyler and Lyra's living quarters were upgraded to a larger space, courtesy of donations from human workers throughout the station. They brought food, offered help with anything needed, and more importantly, they brought acceptance. Lyra had never experienced a community that wanted her before. But the ripples spread far beyond the humans. A delegation of 3 Venlari arrived 2 weeks after the surgery, sent by their homeworld's council. Lyra was in their quarters when Tyler's comm device signaled visitors. Through his eyes, she saw the 3 warriors in their formal armor standing at the door. Her first instinct was fear. The Venlari had abandoned her, cast her out as shameful. What could they possibly want now? The lead warrior, an older female with graying skin, bowed deeply. I am Commander Threll of the Venlari Defense Council. We have come seeking Lyra of Station Kepler 7. I'm Lyra, she said quietly, Tyler's hand finding hers for support. Commander Threll's expression was difficult to read. We came to investigate reports of a human performing neural surgery to grant you sight. The council wished to verify if this was true. It's true, Lyra confirmed, lifting her chin. Tyler gave me access to his vision. I can see through his eyes. The three Venlari exchanged glances. Then Commander Threll did something that shocked everyone. She bowed again, even deeper this time. On behalf of the Venlari people, I offer our profound apologies. We abandoned you. We called you cursed when you were simply different. And it took a human, a species we once considered primitive, to show us the depth of our failure. Lyra stood frozen, unable to process what she was hearing. Commander Threll continued, since your story became known, our scientists have been studying the neural bridge technology. But more than that, they have been studying you. Lyra, your combination of echolocation and shared vision gives you sensory abilities that no other being in known space possesses. You can perceive through walls with sound while simultaneously processing visual data. You are not disabled. You are unique. I don't understand, Lyra said. The commander gestured to one of her companions, who pulled out a datapad. We would like to offer you a position with Venlari Exploratory Services. Your dual perception would be invaluable for deep space navigation and structural analysis. But more than that, we want you to come home. Not as an outcast, but as an honored citizen. Your parents have requested an audience to apologize personally. Lyra felt Tyler's support through their bond, but also his sudden fear. If she accepted and left the station, he would have to come with her. His entire life would be uprooted. No, Lyra said firmly. Commander Threll looked surprised. No? My home is here now, Lyra said, squeezing Tyler's hand. With the human who saw value in me when my own people saw only shame. I appreciate the apology, but I don't need Venlari approval anymore. I have something better. I have people who chose me. The commander nodded slowly, a hint of sadness in her expression. I understand. The offer remains open if you change your mind. And Lyra, for what it's worth, you have made our people reconsider many things we thought we knew about strength and worth. After the Venlari left, Tyler pulled Lyra into a hug. Through their connection, she felt his relief and pride mixing with her own emotions until they couldn't tell whose feelings were whose anymore. But the changes kept coming. Dr. Patel published a paper on the neural bridge procedure that sparked interest across the galaxy. Within months, medical facilities on a dozen worlds began researching similar technologies for their own disabled populations. The idea that Tyler and Lyra represented, that compassion and technology could overcome any limitation, inspired countless others. Station administration offered Lyra a position in their navigation and structural analysis department. Her unique sensory combination proved invaluable for detecting problems in the station's framework that normal sensors missed. Tyler continued his maintenance work, and they developed an efficient system of working together, their shared perception making them an incredible team. 6 months after the surgery, Tyler took Lyra back to the observation deck where they'd shared so many lunches. A small crowd had gathered there, humans and aliens alike, all watching the nebula. When Tyler and Lyra arrived, the crowd parted respectfully. I wanted to show you something, Tyler said, pointing to a small plaque that had been installed on the wall beside the viewport. Lyra read the inscription through his eyes. The Tyler Hayes and Lyra Observation Point. Dedicated to the proof that humanity's greatest strength is choosing compassion over convenience. Lyra felt tears streaming down her face. Through their bond, Tyler felt her overwhelming emotion and pulled her close. You changed everything, Lyra whispered. Not just for me, but for so many others. We changed everything, Tyler corrected gently. You taught me what real strength looks like. You showed the galaxy that limitations are just opportunities to find new ways forward. They stood together watching the nebula, two consciousness sharing one vision, two souls bound together by an act of kindness that had rippled across the stars. Around them, the diverse crowd of the station watched the same sight, each seeing it differently, but all united in the knowledge that they'd witnessed something extraordinary. A human maintenance worker and a blind alien girl had proven something the galaxy was still learning. That worth isn't measured by what you can do alone, but by what you're willing to do for others. That the truest vision isn't what you see with your eyes, but what you choose to see in other people. Lyra looked at Tyler, really looked at him through their shared sight, and saw not just his face but everything he represented. Hope. Kindness. The absolute refusal to accept that anyone was less deserving of the universe's wonders. And through their bond, Tyler saw himself reflected in her perception, seeing what she saw in him, and it made him want to be worthy of that vision. "Thank you," Lyra said simply. "For everything." Tyler smiled, and through their connection, Lyra felt his response before he even spoke. "Thank you for letting me see the universe through your eyes too. Turns out, it's even more beautiful when you share it with someone." Together, they watched the stars, two perspectives blended into something neither could have experienced alone. And across the station and beyond, their story continued to spread, a reminder that sometimes the greatest gift you can give is the one the rest of the world said was impossible. The gift of seeing, not just the universe, but the infinite worth in every soul that inhabits it.